first one.
Episode 11. Start off NFL. Kind of get the last little bit of that, especially with the draft and combine coming up. Jimmy G suspended 1 game for performance-enhancing drugs, despite not being a starter for the second half of the season.
What I'm questioning is, how the hell did they find out now?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that they would just randomly test him unless they've known for a while and it just never got out there, which I could also see being a thing.
Because I saw that and I was like, you're suspending him 1 game next season.
He's not going to be the starter there anyway.
Yeah.
They're either going to draft somebody now or they're going to trade for somebody.
Yeah. It made no sense. Like, the timing of it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Justin Fields, I know you put on here that he had unfollowed the Bears on Instagram. I saw a video of him talking about it with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Equinemius St. Brown, the twins. One plays for Detroit, one plays for Chicago. And he mentioned on their podcast that it wasn't anything that like he has against the Bears. He still loves the Bears. It's just a matter of he didn't want to. He's unfollowed the NFL too. He pointed out. So it's not like he's only unfollowing the Bears. He unfollowed the NFL. I think he just was saying that he doesn't want to see football on his feed right now, especially when everything that he would be tagged in or that the Bears are posting or the NFL is posting about the Bears is about should the Bears trade Justin Fields or should they keep him? Like, I wouldn't want to see that if that was what was all I would see from those pages. And he wants to take a break. I mean, it is their off season. It's the one time they don't have to be living, breathing, and sleeping football.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Like, obviously, like, it's your job.
Yeah.
And I feel like even if you work like a 9-to-5 job and you could be traded, right? I feel like you would also not want to see people talking about, will I get traded? So it's understandable that he's just... I feel like we talk about mental health nowadays a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like he's trying to make sure his mental health is good with it. And he's not making this like a Debbie Downer for his mind.
Yeah.
And he's trying to like make it a good situation for him. Even though it's kind of obvious that they're probably going to trade him. I mean, unless...
I think the only reason they wouldn't trade Justin Fields is if like Washington or New England made an offer that they just couldn't refuse for the number 1 overall pick, which I think Washington is putting together a package right now to try to get moved up, but it kind of all just depends on what the Bears asking price is, because it's not like they're only shipping Justin Fields. They're not only just working on trying to find a deal for Fields, they're also kind of tossing that number 1 pick around saying, who wants it? What are you guys willing to give me, kind of thing. It'll I think in the end it'll come down to what would get us the better trade package, which obviously I feel like if they can get a package they're willing to accept for the number 1 overall pick, it's probably going to be better than what they're going to get for Justin. And I still think Justin Fields is going to be a good starting quarterback wherever he ends up.
Yeah.
It's just horrible coaching into the first 3 years of his career is kind of 3 or 4 years at this point. Feels like it's really just been the coaching that's screwed him up.
Yeah, which is why like when people are saying like, "Oh, trade Justin, get rid of him," I'm like, it's not really his fault.
Yeah,
they have the weapons. They have DJ Moore. Yeah. They need to build up that offensive line, get another weapon for him to either throw or run to.
Because they let David Montgomery walk in the offseason. Mm-hmm. So they lost their primary running back. I mean, Khalil Herbert was supposed to be a good replacement for David Montgomery, but he didn't pan out in a full season as the full-time starter like they wanted. So I think they've got to look at getting him another weapon. And if they don't trade out and they do decide to stick with Justin Fields, you've got the number 1 overall pick, and you've got arguably the best receiver prospect since Calvin Johnson. In Marvin Harrison Jr. When it comes to just sheer skill at his size, you've got the best receiver prospect we've seen in a long time. And you wouldn't have to trade anything; you'd just be able to take him. And I don't think anybody would question that move if you took MHJ at 1, because he's just that good of a player.
Yeah. So the Falcons GM says the QB is their top priority right now. I saw that they're kind of looking at Justin.
I was about to say, I saw that there had been some rumors about him in like Pittsburgh and things like that, But Justin Fields recently did follow the core 3 weapons on Instagram. He recently followed Bijan, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London, all kind of in the same time frame. It wasn't like he followed them at different time frames. So that could be something. It could not be. We'll have to really see, because once Combine comes around, we'll really get to see numbers tested for like Caleb Williams and Drake May, like height, weight, things like that. We'll get to see him kind of throw with other NFL talent receivers, because they weren't always playing with NFL talent receivers. And we'll be able to see MHJ run routes, get his height and weight. So we'll really get to see when the Combine comes around, kind of the final of, will the Bears be going quarterback, or are they going to go ahead and just go with a receiver or trade Justin Fields, or where the plan is going to come. I think it'll be more obvious come Combine time.
Yeah.
Which is just a little bit under 10 days away, so about a week and a half, roughly.
Yep. 9 days away from that.
9 days?
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how Combine goes. It's going to be a fun one to watch, because then you've also got guys like Drake May, who, if they have a good Combine, could rocket himself above Caleb Williams. I don't think it'll happen, because Caleb Williams is just such a generational talent. But I think if Caleb Williams doesn't do certain tests that Drake May does, and Drake May excels leaps and bounds ahead of every other quarterback in the class, then he could start to have a case again for number 1. And we'll get to see guys like Rome Odunze solidify themselves as a top 10 pick and a top 3 receiver. We'll get to see things like that happen. So it'll be fun to see that happen. We'll get to see, I know my brothers always tell me that Brian Thomas Jr. is better than MHJ, but that's also because he's an LSU fan, so he's a little biased towards it. But we'll get to see Brian Thomas Jr., we'll get to see Malik Neighbors, we'll get to see all of those other receivers test out and see if they can close the gap between them and Marvin Harrison Jr. right now. So
yeah.
That'll be fun.
The National Basketball Association,
The NBA
their
All-Star Weekend.
All-Star game came and went. What did you think about it, buddy?
It was rough. I mean, anytime you see a triple-digit number starting with a 2 for a basketball game, you question what happened. And when you look at the final score of 211 to 186, I don't know how to feel about it, because on one hand, sure, it was a lot of offense, but you also had guys like Jokic and Luka who didn't try, like, at all. Luka was throwing up three-quarter court shots. Jokic was, like, walking everywhere, which, I mean, for him is a slowed down pace. His jog is at least a little faster than a walk. So I don't know what to think about it. I mean, I think there's so many ways we could fix All-Star Weekend, and I know I saw someone say that they should do like the MLB does, where the winner gets home court for the finals. I don't know how I feel about that, because you've got to then still go out and prove it in the regular season, because you could have like what happened a long time ago, or not a long time ago, but you know, back when the Warriors were 73-9. There's not going to be another team that has that many regular season wins. But if the East won the previous All-Star game, you're saying, well, you went 73-9, but you don't get home court advantage for the finals because because your All-Star team didn't try to win the All-Star game. So I think it would be a good idea in theory, but I think it would also not be fair to the 1 seed in the conference that had the best record, or whatever, you know, whoever had the best record going into the finals. I think it's unfair to them because they played so well in the regular season.
Yeah, I do think maybe going to the MLB style is a good idea. That's just because, I mean, you can tell that the MLB probably has the best All-Star game because it means something. But I do understand where you're coming from of, well, what if you have a team who's been like the number 1 team all year?
Like where the Celtics are right now, they're 4 games ahead of everybody else, and you're saying that if the West won, then you're like, oh, well, West won, they get home court. Well, we won 5 more games than anybody else in the league. We were leaps and bounds the best team in the NBA regular season was.
Yeah.
So I think in theory, good idea. And for the MLB, it works because of the fact that you play 162 games. You've got situations where teams tie record-wise. And it's a lot closer record-wise. There's very rarely do you see teams like what the Dodgers did a few years ago where they won 30 more games or whatever it was, 20 more games than the next best teams. It's rare to see that in the MLB. Whereas in the NBA, I mean, in the West, you've got the top 4 teams are separated by 2 games in the West. But after that, it's 5 games, 6 games, 9 games, 11 games. So there's a large gap between the 1 seed in the West and the 8th seed in the West.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Kenny Smith's comment over
The Sabrina versus Steph.
Sabrina shooting from the women's line instead? I don't like it. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Because the fact is, she would have made it to the finals.
She would have tied Dame's record, or tied Dame's number to win in the actual 3-point contest. So I don't think it was something where it hindered her. And the thing was, the original agreement was for her to do that, and she herself said, "I'm going to shoot from the men's line." So that was not like it was forced on her. It was a situation where she wanted to do that. If it was the other way around, where it was forced on her, I think maybe yes. Yeah. If you think about it. But because she chose and she was offered the opportunity to shoot from the women's line, she still got to shoot with the women's basketball. And I mean, I think that's as fair as you can make it, because the women's ball is a little bit lighter, not a ton, but it's enough to make a difference. So it's the fact that they're shooting from the same distance, because that was the big thing, is people were saying that the reason they wanted to do this is because Sabrina hit shots from 35 feet, so it's not like it was something she hasn't done. She's hit from that distance before, and she hits from that distance consistently in the WNBA. So I think Kenny Smith was just trying to allocate for it, because I think he felt that there was going to be a lot more comments on the fact that she shot from a men's line instead of a women's line, and there was going to be, but when you look back at it, she had that opportunity. That was the original agreement, and she chose to vary from the original agreement and say she wanted to shoot from the men's line. So you can't really change how she wanted to do it. You can't tell her how she felt about shooting from the men's line.
Yeah. And I think this also kind of helps show how just because you're a female athlete doesn't mean you can't keep up in some circumstances.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that I think it shows she wasn't scared of a challenge.
Yeah.
Type of a deal. So, I mean, I can barely score a 3 as it is, and the fact that she scored 26 in a 3-point contest is amazing. Yeah. I know you have on here about their the Nike and Under Armour tweets that were posted.
Yeah, I was going to say we skip down to the bottom where I've got the possibility of the rematch and all that. That way, and then we can kind of come back up to dunk contest. But I have on here they were talking about a possibility of a rematch between them at next year, which I think would be fun. But they're talking about maybe doing it with partners. Kind of Sabrina hinted at maybe letting Steph bring Clay and have a joint one, and then have her bring somebody. And I think especially this year with Caitlin Clark coming into the NBA, I think it's perfect, or WNBA. I think it's perfect. It's a perfect time to kind of allow them to have partners, because you saw how successful it was. It was arguably the most exciting part of All-Star Weekend.
Yeah.
So why not let them bring a partner and have them? I mean, you could let Sabrina choose, but I feel like for publicity, along with just based on pure skill, it'd be probably Caitlin Clark being the best option, despite her being a rookie next year. But because of what she's done at Iowa, I think that it's pretty obvious that she would be the best option to have in there with her.
Yeah, I think with that, you could even do a little rookie versus veteran challenge, where you have one rookie, one veteran on the team, and try and score there.
I just don't know who Steph would take in this next draft, because this next draft is all G League Ignite guys and foreign guys, and
pretty much
there aren't that. I mean, in comparison to the draft that was this last year, there's not anybody that's at the level of arguably any of the top 3 picks of last year's draft. This year's rookie class, so
that's why it may not work, but I think that would just be a new idea to try.
I mean, and they already kind of have that with the rookie versus sophomore games. So they kind of already have that aspect in, whereas if you were having say Steph and Sabrina become captains and they get to pick one person to bring with them, where Steph could bring say Dame. It doesn't have to be Clay. It could be anybody. Yeah. But let them each pick one person from the league that they feel is the next best shooter in their league and bring them to the thing. So I think that would be a cool idea, would just be to allow them, because we have the all-star captains, or we did when they were allowing the draft system and it wasn't the East versus West. But to have that would be kind of cool, I think.
Or, you could do, have like Hall of Famer and one of them. Could you imagine Larry Bird, Steph Curry versus Sabrina and Sue Bird?
I mean, but the thing is, Larry's like in his 80s now. Like, you wouldn't be able to pick like a true legend.
True.
Because a lot of those guys are too old for that. Like, if you're talking about, like, the youngest legend you could probably get is, like, Del Curry would be the best, I think, kind of age range you could get. I mean, like a Charles Barkley, maybe. And, like, that's still on the older side. Like, Chuck probably couldn't go out and do a three-point challenge.
Let's be real. Like, I think 80-year-old Larry Bird would still be up to shoot some threes. And he would probably trash talk.
But it wouldn't be. I don't think it would be as exciting as Steph and Dame versus Caitlin Clark and.
That's fair.
Sabrina.
That's fair.
Because if you want to bring publicity to the current league that they're in, especially because this is kind of giving the WNBA publicity, you don't want to bring a legend from the WNBA because then no one's going to want to watch. If you bring two current players from said league, then they're going to be like, oh, well, now we have two people that we can watch. Whereas, like. So whenever their names come across the screen or they hear about someone, like now when NBA fans are like, oh, I hear Sabrina's playing tonight. She did pretty good against Steph. Let's watch the WNBA game. If you bring a legend, you're like, oh, well, I guess I can go watch Sue Bird highlights tonight. But it's not gonna make me want to watch any more WNBA than I already do. So it's
I mean, that's probably like the big complaint of that idea. Again, like I'm throwing out ideas.
Yeah.
So, two biggest awards, Dame won the 3-point contest and MVP, and Mac McClung back-to-back.
I love Mac McClung, but we need to get a dunk. We need to reset the dunk contest. The dunk contest is awful.
Yeah.
It is so bad. We need to go back to the Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine style dunk contests. And we need to go back to having guys like that who may not be all-stars at the time, but are there just to make... Like, I understand the idea of having like Mac McClung because he's good at dunking, but he's a G Leaguer.
Yeah.
We need to get big names back into the dunk contest. And it doesn't have to be big names. It just has to be rotational guys on actual NBA rosters. And on that matter, get McClung a spot on a rotational roster. He's proved he's got the athleticism to do it, and he just hasn't had the chance to prove it on the actual court. And in the minutes he has gotten, he's been effective enough, I think, to get like a 9-10 spot on in a rotation. Like nowhere near a 6-man, but being like a 9 or 10 spot on a roster wouldn't be something I think out of the cards for him.
No. Moving on, Major League Baseball.
Major League Baseball.
The Cincinnati Reds have a weird drill going on. I don't know if you saw that.
I did. They had a little
hippo.
I mean, it makes sense because it also keeps you from risking a loose baseball hitting one of your players in the head.
Yeah.
That's one of the quickest ways to cause someone to have to miss spring training is if they've got to get stitches in the side of their head. So it's a good idea, and you can also control the speed of it where you can have it go faster than an actual human would slide.
Yeah. I think it's a good drill. They're dragging like a pool toy. It's like a little like.
It was an inflatable toy on a rope.
Yeah, it was like a hippo.
They just they had someone behind the plate just pulling it down third base line.
Yeah,
for like 3 or 5 feet, and it was working on having quick throws in and things like that.
Yeah, receiving throws and applying tags,
which is. And like I said, it keeps you from risking the health of actual players because especially in the Reds' case, you got a lot of young guys that you want to see play the spring training, so you can figure out who's going to be rotational and impactful next season.
Yeah. And
you don't want to risk missing it, having any of them get injured, and then having to find out later down the line that they were good enough to be on your roster.
Yeah.
So I think it's good for that. And I think kind of since we're already on the Reds.
I was just going to go there.
Ellie De La Cruz, Hunter Green situation where they had the tweet thread go viral after Hunter Green and Ellie De La Cruz Hunter Green was throwing a live bullpen. And Ellie, being the freak of nature that Ellie De La Cruz is, hit a foul ball into the players' parking lot, which is not an easy thing to do based on the Reds' setup for their field. And he managed to smash Hunter Green, who was the pitcher at the time, his car's window. And that was quite the interaction from the videos I've seen. I mean, you could tell they were joking, but Hunter Green did not seem very happy in the moment of throwing the bullpen when he realized it was his car. But I think it's also kind of ironic that all the cars he could hit in the
Yeah.
players' parking lot, he managed to hit Hunter Green's.
I find it just that very convenient that he hit his car.
Yeah.
I think the best part was when Green yelled out, "You're gonna F and pay for that." And
Yeah.
Green was responding with, "You make more than me, buddy."
Yeah. Because Ellie's still in that rookie contract. We also got on here kind of some recent free agent news. Liam Hendricks,
yeah.
2-year deal, $10 million deal with the Red Sox. Blake Snell is still technically a free agent, but he's getting. There's rumors that the Yankees have submitted a deal to his agent, so we'll see if that turns into anything. I know Aaron Judge was recently hinting at the possibility of the Yankees still signing another highly touted player. And Blake Snell was that. Is that. Blake Snell is a highly sought after free agent. So we'll see if that turns into anything. If it does turn into anything, I will be very upset because of the fact that I don't want to see the Yankees or Dodgers use their money any more than they already do. Because as a Rangers fan, we have a decent amount of money, but we don't have nearly as much as the Dodgers and the Yankees. They're even smaller franchises. Like the Athletics don't sign anybody. They don't spend any money.
Moneyball.
Yeah. So it's like best thing I can compare it to is Formula One, where they had to put a cost cap in. Because even though in baseball there's a salary cap, it's a very loose salary cap. Because in baseball you're allowed to pay players in other ways, like with Shohei's deal. He's getting $2 million a year and deferring the rest till the end of his contract. So his 10-year contract is going to be up, and they're going to owe him $680 million.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't do that in other sports.
No.
Otherwise, there would be way, way crazier super teams formed. And there's a reason that the other sports don't allow it.
Yeah.
And knowing the Dodgers and Yankees, they'll both probably still miss the playoffs next year. Because that's just what they do. They spend stupid amounts of money and then don't perform in the regular season.
Speaking of Shohei, his former teammate Mike Trout says he doesn't want to be traded right now. Little interesting there, because I mean, he's the only star they really have left.
I think it's as much as I think people want to see Trout out of the Angels organization because they just can't build a winning team around him. They took a shot on him. He's not going to leave. He doesn't want to leave.
No.
He's going to be in an Angels jersey until he retires, or they make the decision to trade him like what the Thunder did with Westbrook.
Yeah.
Until they decide to trade him for his greater good of his career, he's not going to leave.
Yeah.
He never will. He's a Angel through and through.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think he's sticking there until he kind of gets traded out. I mean, they've had just so many opportunities.
They had Shohei on the roster.
Yeah.
I mean, they have Rendon, but Rendon apparently doesn't even want to play baseball anymore.
Yeah.
So it's not like they've got a ton of good options for players.
Yeah.
On that roster. And, I mean, if you're going to live in L.A. and as an MLB player, you're going to the Dodgers. You're not signing with the Angels.
Yeah.
Because you can go to a contender and still live in the same city.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see.
NASCAR. William Byron wins it.
That's my guy.
And it was a wild finish.
What was it, 5 laps left? We got the big one?
Yep, 5 laps left to go. We got the big one. And then 2 laps to go, they wrecked. And, like, right as the white flag waved, and Byron was just barely out in front to get the win.
Yeah. I like William Byron, though. Mainly just because of his story, going from racing in online video games to getting a spot at Hendrick Motorsports, and then now he's doing where he was. He was in the Final Four last year. He's winning races early on this season, so he's carrying the momentum. But, I mean, so far, the 2 winners this year. We had at the Clash, the Coliseum, we had Denny Hamlin. We got William Byron running this time. Don't know what that means for this leaderboard. I haven't got a chance to look at that yet. But let's see if I can get the NASCAR Cup Series leaderboard. Standings. That's what I want to see. That was also the thing about William Byron winning at Daytona was it was the, I think, it was like the 60th or 80th year of Hendrick Motorsports being a team, like on the day, or no, 20. It was it was a big, like it was to the day that they were like 20, like it was at least 20. I can't remember what it was, but he won for Hendricks on the 20th anniversary, I think, of them being a team. So it was kind of a big deal for them at least. But we're looking at, is that just Daytona? No, that's the entire Cup Series. So we're looking at Cup Series. So far, you got William Byron at 54. Alex Bowman's got 50. Chris Bell, Chase Elliott, and Bubba Wallace are your top 5. Larson's in at 5 or in at 7. Kyle Busch is in at 8. Cindric is at 11. Denny Hamlin is at 12. Trying to see. Truex Jr.'s at 16. Ross Chastain is at 17. Tyler Reddick and Ty Gibbs, are at 18 and 19 respectively. Ryan Blaney is at 23. So you kind of got some guys. Daniel Suarez, the rookie, rocking the number 99, is in 24. So we'll see. Who all has stage wins so far? Is it just... So far, it's just Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney.
Yeah, because I don't think they count the Clash as a real.
No, they don't count it.
It was one of the races.
Yeah, they don't count it. They don't have stages in the Clash, and they don't count it as a win for the.
It's an exhibition.
Yeah, it doesn't count towards the Cup Series.
Yeah,
it's just kind of its own race. But kind of the two that you see consistency from guys like Chris Bell and William Byron, who, in your top 4 last year, and they're still doing it this year. Larson, I believe, was in the top 4 last year, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
But it's also strange to see that our return. Oh no, Ross Chastain was in it too, wasn't he?
Well, obviously, Blaney was.
Yeah, Blaney was. I know Chastain was just out of it. Chastain made it to Elite 8. But, to see Blaney not in the top 15, I think. Right? Yeah, to see Blaney Blaney's not in the top 20. He's just out of the top 20. To see that, it's still early in the season, but as a returning champ, you don't want to be sitting out of the top 20 after the first race. You want to kind of be solidifying yourself in at least the top 10. Manufacturer, Chevy's leading in the manufacturer, and the owner, Hendrick Motorsports, is sitting as the leader. Hendrick Motorsports has got 3 of the top 4 or 3 of the top 5. So it's good to see if you're a Hendrick Motorsports fan, which I am. So, but that's kind of it for there. We'll see what happens. Where do they race this week? Isn't it
Atlanta?
That's what I was thinking. Atlanta. We'll see what happens in Atlanta. We'll see if Byron can come off this win and get another one, or maybe see if Blaney can turn it around. See what he does.
Maybe.
Other than that, not much else going on professional sports-wise this week. You want to send it out?
Thank you all so much for watching today's episode. If you did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe, and like always, comment down below if you think we should talk about something, because we're probably going to talk about it, knowing us. And we will catch y'all Sunday when we talk about the greatest day in college basketball.
Greatest day in college basketball for you.
Oh, it was glorious. It will be explained. Did Alabama just lose?
No, they won.
Damn it. Why it was the greatest day in college basketball yesterday. My outfit kind of spells it. Are they rushing the court?
No.
Oh, look like they were about to rush.
You want to finish the exit?
What?
Keep getting distracted with.
Sorry, I like basketball. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and we will see y'all Sunday when we talk about college sports. Goodbye.
Goodbye.